Luman Walters, also known as Laman Walters, was well known in the early 1800s for his self-proclaimed abilities of glass-looking, or looking into a peepstone to find hidden objects such as treasure. Animal magnetism, mesmerism, magic, palmistry, conjugation, fortune-telling, and clairvoyance. When Luman was around 10 years old, his family moved from Winchester, Connecticut, to Burke, Vermont, which was founded by his uncle, Lemuel Walters. Luman received a scientific education in Paris. After returning to the United States in 1818, he began to practice as a physician and occult expert. Also in 1818, Deputy Sheriff James Giddings of Boscawen, New Hampshire, offered a reward for the arrest of a transient person, calling himself Laman Walters, who has for several days past been imposing himself upon the credulity of the people in this vicinity by a pretended knowledge of magic, palmistry, and conjuration. A document by Diedrich Willers Jr. of Fayette, New York, said, "Fortune tellers are consulted as to the future. Many in this neighborhood, wherever they wish to find out something which is lost, or pry into hidden mysteries, will consult Dr. Walters." By 1822, Luman had taken up residence in Gorham, Ontario County, New York. In 1822 and 1823, Luman Walters served as the seer during a treasure dig, using his peepstone to locate treasure on the property of Abner Cole in Palmyra, New York. Joseph Smith Sr., Joseph Smith Jr., and Alvin Smith also participated in the dig. According to Cole, Walters the magician sacrificed a cock for the purpose of propitiating the Prince of Spirits, and he took his book, and his rusty sword, and his magic stone, and his stuffed toad, and all his implements of witchcraft, and retired to the mountains near Great Sodus Bay. Cole also reported that Luman Walters was Joseph Smith Jr.'s mentor in the occult. He printed in a weekly Palmyra newspaper called The Reflector. It is well known that Joe Smith never pretended to have any communion with angels until a long period after the pretended finding of his book, and that the juggling of himself or father went no further than the pretended faculty of seeing wonders in a peepstone, and the occasional interview with the spirit supposed to have the custody of hidden treasures. And it is also equally well known that a vagabond fortune-teller by the name of Walters, who then resided in the town of Sodus, and was once committed to the jail of this country for juggling, was the constant companion and bosom friend of these money-digging impostors. In 1884, during the Braden and Kelly debate, which was a public debate between the RLDS and the Church of Christ, in Kirtland, Ohio, Clark Braden said, while acting in his primitive, supernatural capacity as water witch and money digger, Smith made the acquaintance of a drunken vagabond by the name of Walters, who had been a physician in Europe. This person had learned in Europe the secret of mesmerism or animal magnetism. This was entirely unknown in America, except to a few in large cities who had read European papers. Smith learned this art, and like all men with great passions, vitality, and physical force, he was almost a prodigy in his mesmeric power. All casting out devils and raising the dead were merely a display of his great mesmeric power. Artemisia Beeman was the first wife of Mormon apostle Erastus Fairbanks Snow. She remembered that a man named Walters, son of a rich man living on the Hudson south of Albany, received a scientific education, was even sent to Paris. After he came home, he lived like a misanthrope. He had come back an infidel, believing neither in man nor God. He used to dress in fine broadcloth overcoat, but no other coat nor vest, his trousers all slitted up and patched, and sunburnt boots filthy. He was a sort of fortune-teller, though he never stirred off the old place. This man was sent for 3 times to go to the hill Cumorah to dig for treasure. People knew there was treasure there. The man was one of those who sent for him. He came. Each time he said there was treasure there, but that he couldn't get it, though there was one that could. The last time he came he pointed out Joseph Smith, who was sitting quietly among a group of men in the tavern, and said there was the young man that could find it, and cursed and swore about him in a scientific manner. Awful. Lucy Mack Smith, the mother of Joseph Smith, confirmed that a conjurer looked for the gold plates. She said, "My husband soon learned that 10 or 12 men were clubbed together, with one Willard Chase, a Methodist class leader, at their head. And what was still more ridiculous, they had sent 60 or 70 miles for a certain conjurer to come and divine the place where the plates were secreted. The next morning, my husband concluded to go among the neighbors to see what he could learn with regard to their plans. The first house he came to, he found the conjurer and Willard Chase, together with the rest of the clan. Making an errand, he sat down near the door, leaving it a little ajar. They stood in the yard near the door and were devising plans to find Joe Smith's gold Bible. The conjurer was much animated, though he had traveled 60 miles the previous day and night. Presently the woman of the house became uneasy at the exposures they were making, and stepping through a back door, called in a suppressed tone loud enough to be heard by Mr. Smith, Sam, you are cutting your own throat." At this the conjurer bawled out at the top of his voice, "I am not afraid of anybody. We will have them plates in spite of Joe Smith, or all the devils in hell." Also Mormon prophet Brigham Young explained that there was a necromancer that tried to get the gold plates 3 times, the same that Artemisia Beeman had claimed. Young said, "I never heard such oaths fall from the lips of any man as I heard uttered by a man who was called a fortune teller, and who knew where those plates were hid. He went 3 times in one summer to get them, the same summer in which Joseph did get them. Baptist, Presbyterian, and Methodist priests and deacons sent for him to tell where those plates were, and to get them out of the hill where they were deposited. And he had not returned to his home from the last trip he made for them, more than a week or 10 days before Joseph got them. Joseph was what we call an ignorant boy, but this fortune teller, whose name I do not remember, was a man of profound learning. He had put himself in possession of all the learning in the States, had been to France, Germany, Italy, and through the world, had been educated for a priest and turned out to be a devil. I never heard a man swear as he did. He could tell that those plates were there, and that they were a treasure whose value to the people could not be told. For that, I myself heard him say." Pomeroy Tucker was born in Palmyra, New York. He was familiar with the Smith family and their treasure-digging practices. He wrote that Luman Walters was one of the first members of the Church of Christ, founded by Joseph Smith. Luman Walters' second cousin, George Walters, became a member of the church, as did Dorothy Walters. Dorothy's husband, Benjamin Hoyt, was told by his bishop he needed to stop using a divining rod, and accusing others of being wizards and witches, also burning boards to heal the bewitched. The bishop's request was supported by the High Council of the Church, with Hiram Smith presiding.